Hello and welcome to my specialization introduction and outdoor content guide for the Demonology Warlock in World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. If you haven't watched the video primer for this series, I recommend you do that now. There'll be a link in the description below and that will help catch you up on what exactly it is we're doing in these videos and what we're covering. Alright, so we're here on our Demonology Warlock. We've got our action bars all visible and clear. If we hop into our talent tree, these are the talents you can take to fulfill the requirements that were laid out in the primer video. Now that we've got all that set up, we're going to jump into our spell book and organize our spells. I'm not going to go really deep into every single one of these spells, but I will give you at least a brief description so you can understand what that ability does and why it's going into the category that it is. We're going to start with Banish. Banish is a crowd control ability. It will cause a demon, aberration, or elemental to be banished and prevent them from doing anything for 30 seconds. It has some limited use depending on the type of content you're in. Obviously really good in Legion, maybe not so much in Battle for Azeroth, but we'll put it here in our crowd control ability section anyway. Call Dreadstalkers is part of our core rotation. Command Demon is a ability that's going to change based on the demon we have out, so we're going to talk about that later. Create Health Stone. This will, by casting this, we get these health stones that act kind of like potions. We get 3 of them, and they will restore 25% health when we use them. So we'll put that up here in miscellaneous because we want to kind of have those on hand at all times, so stock up on those in between fights. Then we have Create Soulwell, which we'll put next to that. This puts something on the ground that your party and raid members can click on to also get 3 health stones. So that's another ability we have there. Demon Bolt is part of our core rotation. Demonic Gateway is a combat utility ability. You can put down a gateway and then activate this ability to transport yourself to the other gateway. So it's kind of just a utility ability, helps you move around the battlefield. So that's why we have it in combat utility. Drain Life is part of our core rotation. Enslaved Demon we'll put over here. It allows us to force a target demon to fight for us for up to 5 minutes. Something we'll usually set up before combat, or we may not be even be able to use because there might not be any demons around. Next we have Eye of Kilrog. This will summon a eyeball demon that is fast, has low health, and is stealth. But we can use it to scout out. Our vision will be attached to that demon, and we can fly it around and kind of scout things out and see what's coming up. Fear is a crowd control ability that will fear an enemy. Hand to Gul'dan is part of our core rotation. Health Funnel is a combat utility ability. It sacrifices 25% of our health and restores that health to whatever demon we have out. Implosion is part of our core rotation. Ritual of Summoning will allow us to create a portal that we can then use to summon our party members to our location. Shadow Bolt is part of our core rotation. Shadow Fury is a crowd control ability. It's an AoE stun around us. Soul Stone will allow you to capture the soul of a target party member or friendly member or yourself. And what will happen is if that person dies, they'll be able to resurrect with 60% health and 20% mana. So usually you'll set that up before you get started in combat. That way, if something does happen, it's there and it's available. Next, we have Summon Demon. This is our menu to choose which demon we want to summon. As the Demonology Warlock, you have access to a 5th special demon in addition to the 4 normal ones, and we will cover those later. We have Summon Demonic Tyrant. This is an offensive cooldown ability that we can use. It summons a Demonic Tyrant. This will increase the duration of the demons that we have out and increase the damage of our demons significantly. We have Unending Breath. This will allow you or an ally to be able to breathe underwater and swim 20% faster. So this is something we can use in outdoor content while we're traveling in between fights. So we'll put that over here with our miscellaneous abilities. And then finally we have Unending Resolve. This is a defensive cooldown ability that reduces damage we take and makes us immune to interrupt and silence effects. So let's talk about the resources available to the Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock has two resources. One is mana, which you will use to cast some of your spells. In open world content, it's fairly insignificant. You'll almost never run out of mana, so it's almost not even... It's kind of half a resource, but it is there and it does get used. If you are out of mana for some reason, there will be abilities you can't cast. But the more important resource, and the one you're going to be interacting with the most, are these purple crystals here. These are called soul shards, and you start with 3 of them. When you're out of combat, you'll regenerate up to 3. You have a maximum of 5. You'll spin these to cast your most powerful abilities, and then some of your other abilities will help you to regenerate these in combat and get up to the maximum of 5. That way you're able to use your abilities. So you'll use abilities to generate soul shards. You'll spin those soul shards to do really powerful abilities, and if you're not in combat, you'll passively regenerate up to 3 soul shards in between fights. So let's talk about the core rotation for the Demonology Warlock. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we start combat, usually, is we're going to want to cast Demon Bolt. This costs 400 mana, it has a long cast time, does a good amount of damage, and will generate 2 soul shards. So the reason we want to open with this is because the cast time is almost 4 seconds long. And that means, if we're fighting an enemy, sitting around for 4 seconds trying to cast this one ability is not a great idea. So we open combat with it by casting this long ability. We generate 2 soul shards. That puts us at the maximum soul shards we can have. And then we can immediately start spending those soul shards. So after we cast Demon Bolt, we're going to want to cast Hand of Gul'dan. So Hand of Gul'dan is an ability that will call down a meteor. This meteor will deal a little bit of damage, and based on the number of soul shards we spend, it will summon a wild imp to fight for us for a short duration. So we can spend 1 to 3 soul shards on this ability to get 1 to 3 imps. So we open up with our Demon Bolt. We've got 5 soul shards. We cast Hand of Gul'dan for 3 soul shards. We get 3 imps that are fighting for us. We have 2 soul shards left over. Then we cast Call Dreadstalkers. Call Dreadstalkers cost those last 2 soul shards. It'll summon 2 Dreadstalkers that will fight for us for 12 seconds. So, after we've done that, we're out of soul shards, so we need a way to get those soul shards back. We don't want to start casting Demon Bolt again because the cast time is so long, it's going to take us forever to get these back. We're not dealing a lot of damage to our target. That's not the optimal way to do that. So, instead, we will cast Shadow Bolt. This has a shorter cast time, costs 400 mana, deals a little bit of damage, and every time we cast it, we get a soul shard. So that is how we will build our soul shards back up, so that we can cast Hand of Gul'dan again, we can cast Call Dreadstalkers again, and just keep that cycle going. Now we do have 2 other abilities that we can use. The first is Implosion. So if we have imps out, Implosion will make all your imps shoot towards the target and deal a bunch of damage to all targets within range. So it's a nice way to take your imps, which generally are just throwing fireballs at one target, and turn them into an AoE multi-target damage source. So that's another ability we can use if we have a bunch of imps out. And then lastly, we do have Drain Life. This is an ability that will deal damage to the target and heal us for 500% of the damage done. So it's another spell that we have as part of our core rotation for any time we need to restore health to ourselves. So that's the basic rotation for the Demonology Warlock, and we're going to go down and take a look at it. So we're going to open up combat with our Demon Bolt to put us at 5 soul shards. You see there's a really long cast time. We've got our 5 soul shards, so now we want to hit Hand of Gul'dan. And we're going to summon our 3 imps. You're going to see those. 1, 2, 3. They're going to start attacking our target. We're going to cast Call Dreadstalkers to spend our last 2 soul shards. And then we'll start casting Shadow Bolt. And you can see this is going to regenerate a soul shard every time. When we get up to 3, we probably just want to cast Hand of Gul'dan again to make sure that we keep our imps out. Alright, and then we can start regenning our Shadow Bolts again, build our way back up to 5 while we have our imps out, and then Hand of Gul'dan, call Dreadstalkers, go right back into Shadow Bolt, start building up those charges again. By the time we have 5, our imps will go away, we'll cast Hand of Gul'dan again, and we'll go right back into our Shadow Bolts. And that is generally how it's going to work. We've got 3 imps out. We can hit Implosion and shoot all those imps forward and deal that AoE damage. If we're taking damage, we can also drain life to get some health back. And that's pretty much it. Now you're going to see some graphics popping up around my character. And that is due to the passive abilities of the Demonology Warlock. So let's take a look at those real quick. So first off, we have soul shards, which we already talked about. Soul shards are generated by Shadow Bolt, and then we consume them. We have Soul Leech. All single target damage done by you and your minions grants you and your pet shadowy shields that absorb 8% of the damage dealt for 15 seconds up to 10% of maximum health. So, as you and your pets are doing single target damage, you will get a shield. This will just passively help you with your survivability. Then we have Soul Link. 20% of all damage that we take is taken by our pets instead, and Soul Leech heals you for 25% and your pet for 50% of the absorption it grants. So we get this added bonus of, as we're dealing single target damage, getting these shields, we're also getting healed as well. And when we take damage, that gets 20% of that gets diverted to our pet, so this really will help increase our survivability. We have Master Demonologist. This will increase the damage of our demons. And then finally we have Demonic Core. So this is a little more interesting. This is where the graphics come in. When your wild imps expend all their energy or are imploded, so when their timer's up and they're done, or when we choose to send them all forward with implosion, we have a 10% chance to absorb their life essence and grant us a stack of Demonic Core. Okay. Also, when our summoned Dreadstalkers, which we're casting down here, when they fade away, you have a 100% chance to absorb their life essence, granting you a stack of Demonic Core. So 10% chance when our imps go away, and that's because our wild imps, we can summon up to 3 of them. We can summon them a lot more often than our Dreadstalkers, so we have, a lot more chances to possibly get this. We've got a 10% chance there, and every time our Dreadstalkers go away, we have a 100% chance to get this Demonic Core buff. Demonic Core will reduce the cast time of Demon Bolt by 100%, and you can have up to 4 stacks at a time. Now this is important because you saw in our cycle we were spinning all of our shards at the same time, then trying to build them back up with Shadow Bolt. Well, when our Dreadstalkers fade away, we definitely get a free Demon Bolt, and what that means is we can cast that Demon Bolt, deal a bit of damage, but generate 2 soul shards very quickly, like instantly 2 soul shards. So what we want to watch out for when we're doing this is we don't want to use that Demonic Core charge if we have 4 or 5 soul shards, because we're either going to waste one of them if we already have 4, or both of them if we already have 5. So we want to save that charge for when we're low, or maybe we hit 3 and we're going to cast that and get up to 5 so we can quickly use our other abilities. So we're going to go down and just go through our starting rotation again and pay attention for when we do get those Demonic Core abilities. So we're going to open up combat with Demon Bolt. We're going to cast Hand of Gul'dan, and then call Dreadstalkers, and go right into Shadow Bolt. And we're waiting for our demons to expire. Okay, so you can see here we have a stack of demonic core, but we also have 5 soul shards. So we don't want to use this. We want to cast like Hand of Gul'dan, get those imps to come down, then use that demonic core. We're back up to 4. We can call Dreadstalkers again. We've got our stacks again. Use that demon bolt, do another Hand of Gul'dan, use that other demon bolt, do another Hand of Gul'dan, and just now we have even more imps out. All right. And that's kind of what you want to do, because you can have more than 3 imps out. You just have to get those Hands of Gul'dan out as fast as you can in order to have a bunch of imps. So make sure when you do get those demonic core procs that you are not using them in a situation where you're going to waste soul shards. And that is pretty much it. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on the core rotation, the basic rotation of the Demonology Warlock, we're going to jump into our talent tree and we're going to create a build that is going to work well in outdoor content. Alright. So this is the build that I recommend that you use. It's definitely not the only one that you could use, but it's the one that I recommend, and will be demonstrating at the end of this video. So we're going to go through each talent, talk about why we picked it and how it's contributing to the build, and we'll start things off with Dreadlash. So your Dreadstalkers, remember these guys, when they charge into battle on that initial, like the first thing they do as soon as we cast them, their Dread Bite attack, which is their initial attack, will now hit all targets within 8 yards and will deal 25% more damage. So what this means is that now every time we cast Call Dreadstalkers, we get a little bit of AoE damage right there at the start of them being out. And this is going to help us with our AoE damage, because as you can see, all the imps, all the Dreadstalkers, they all kind of focus in on one target. So this will help us out to be able to hit multiple targets at the same time. Demonic Calling, your Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt, our 2 abilities here, have a 20% chance to make your next Call Dreadstalkers cost 1 less soul shard and have no cast time. So you could see that there were points there where we were trying to build up to be able to do Hand of Gul'dan and Call Dreadstalkers. This ability is going to give us that opportunity to cast Call Dreadstalkers for a little bit cheaper and instant cast it. And being able to instant cast it normally has a 1.7 second cast. That's the same cast time as Shadow Bolt. So we can instant cast that and get a Shadow Bolt in the time where we normally would have been casting Call Dreadstalkers. That's going to help us build our soul shards up. That's going to help us to be able to keep using Hand of Gul'dan and summoning more and more and more imps. So that is why we've chosen this talent, just to give us the opportunity to do that kind of stuff. Next we have Burning Rush. This is a combat utility ability. And what it does is when you activate it, it will give you 50% increased movement speed until you toggle the ability off. However, the catch to that is while this ability is toggled on, you lose 4% of your maximum health every second. So it's a really powerful movement tool for the Warlock, because Warlocks generally don't have a lot of good ways to increase their movement speed at the cost of sacrificing some of your life. But because you have so many pets and you also have the Drain Life ability, you generally can get your life back pretty quick. You also have your health stones you could use if you really need to as well. So you can get a lot of time in this 50% movement speed buff if you choose to use it. Next we have Soul Strike, and we're just going to drop that down and talk about that in a little bit. And then we have Demonic Circle. So this gives us 2 abilities here. It gives us Demonic Circle and Demonic Circle Teleport. Now what this does is we can place a circle on the ground, just like that. And then within 40 yards of that circle, we can use Demonic Circle Teleport to teleport right back to it. Now, the 40-yard range might make you wonder, well, what is this good for? Well, what you can do is if you're in a situation like, say, this was a little valley or something that, you needed to go do a couple quest things in, but it was a pain to try to get all the way to the other end and go up the ramp and come back around to where you were. This circle lasts 15 minutes. So what you can do is you can actually put your circle up on top of the ledge or, on the other side of a canyon or whatever you want. Go down, do whatever you need to do, take care of all that stuff, and then make your way back over to the ledge and use your teleport and teleport right up the ledge. Now you have to make sure if you do something like this that the distance between like the top and the bottom or across is not more than 40 yards, otherwise you won't be able to get back up there. But this gives you a nice utility tool to use to be able to kind of overcome some of the traveling hurdles that are particularly annoying, especially when you don't have flying yet. Also, this is just a good ability to have, like say you're going into a tough fight. Well, you could set up your circle maybe somewhere a good ways away, do your fighting down here, and if you get into trouble, just pop that teleport, give yourself a couple seconds while all the enemies are redirecting over to your new position to heal up, to cast your defensive spells, or maybe just turn and run the other way. So lots of utility baked into this talent. Depending on how you use it, you just got to be kind of creative with it. Next we have Inner Demons. You passively summon a wild imp to fight for you every 12 seconds and have a 10% chance to also summon an additional demon to fight for you for 15 seconds. So this will just passively give us more demons, and more demons is good because of Sacrifice Souls. Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt deal 5% additional damage per demon you have summoned. So, by default, we're going to definitely have 2 imps out plus our normal demon. So our Demon Bolt and Shadow Bolt should always be dealing 15% increased damage by taking this ability. Now, if we use the rotation we talked about earlier, we're going to have 3 of our regular demons out, 3 from Hand of Gul'dan, and 2 from Call Dreadstalkers. So that's a total of 8 demons that we can have out very easily, which means that when we are spamming Shadow Bolt to get those soul shards back, it's going to be doing 40% increased damage at least. Sometimes it might be doing like 30% if our Call Dreadstalkers are on cooldown and they've disappeared, but it's still a good increase to the ability that we're going to be spamming a lot to get our soul shards back. Plus, our Demon Bolt does a decent chunk of damage. We're opening combat with it, so it'll deal a little bit extra. And then anytime we instant cast that to get soul shards back, because we've gotten our Demonic Core ability to go off, it's going to deal an increased chunk of damage as well. So that is the build minus the one ability that we're now going to talk about as we take a look at the different pets that are available to the Demonic Warlock, or the Demonology Warlock. So first up, you have your Imp. Your Imp is pretty much just like the other Imps we have. It's going to cast fireballs at a single target. So if we look at this, you'll see... Oh, well, they're not going to do it. Our Imp will basically fling fireballs at one of our targets. Now, every pet that you summon gives you a different ability you can activate via the Command Demon ability. In the case of the Imp, he will remove harmful magic effects from an ally. That's kind of useless in open world content for the most part, because you're generally not going to have an effect that's so bad that you're desperately wanting to use this 15-second cooldown ability to get rid of it. So I don't really recommend the Imp as your companion. We have the Fell Hunter. Fell Hunter will give you the ability to interrupt an enemy, so this will counter an enemy's spell cast. This is a much more useful ability. If you're fighting against, a mage or something, you can use this to interrupt their cast. By default, the Warlock doesn't really have anything that's great at doing that. We do have Fear, but that makes the target run around all over the place, and it may cause other enemies to notice you that you don't want to notice you as well. So this ability is a little bit better. Also, still just attacks a single target there. We have the Succubus. The Succubus, the short version, it's a good PvP pet. And for the most part, I wouldn't recommend using it in open world content. Its ability will disorient a target, but any damage that it takes will break the effect. Often, you're not really trying to crowd control enemies in this way in open world content. Next, we have the Void Walker. This is generally the pet I recommend that Warlocks take. It's a nice pet that will taunt and tank for you. So it can take a lot of the attention of the enemy away from you and allow you to focus on dealing your damage without having to worry about whether or not you're getting attacked. The ability it gives you is it will temporarily increase current and maximum health by 30% for 20 seconds, so gets you some extra health there. But, as the Demonology Warlock, we have a special pet that we have access to called the Felguard, and that is the one that I recommend that you have out. It is a single target melee pet. It gives you the ability to stun a target for 4 seconds every 30 seconds. So we're going to put that into our crowd control abilities. Also, the Felguard has Legion Strike. It will deal damage to all enemies in front of it. Reduce the effectiveness of healing, not super relevant in open world content. It has Fellstorm, where it will recklessly swing its weapon, striking all nearby targets. So it also has a charge, so it will charge in. So when you start attacking something, your Felguard charges in. It starts doing all these AoE damaging attacks, and instead of attacking a single target, you get some multi-target damage in there. And that's good because your imps generally are attacking one target. Your Dreadstalkers are attacking one target, even though we talented in to give us a little bit of AoE there. So it's nice to have a pet that can deal damage to multiple targets. Also, you, with your Shadow Bolt and stuff like that, pretty much are just attacking like one target at a time as well. So a little bit of versatility there. And that does bring us to our other talent, Soul Strike. This is an ability that we have. We can use it every 10 seconds. Commands our Felguard to strike into the soul of its enemy, dealing some shadow damage. But more importantly, it generates a soul shard. And this is something we can use instantly to generate a soul shard. So if we need a soul shard in a pinch, we can use this ability to generate that. So we're going to put that down here as part of our core rotation as well. And we'll use that as much as possible. Now with this talent build, your rotation doesn't really change much. You just want to try to have as many demons out as possible, because then you're going to be dealing that 5% per demon additional damage with your Shadow Bolts. So you'll still come in, you'll still open with Demon Bolts into Hand of Gul'dan, into Dreadstalkers, into Shadow Bolt. You can also cast your Soul Strike and get that on cooldown. Keep hitting your Shadow Bolts. Shadow Bolts. Alright, we're at 5 stacks. We can Hand of Gul'dan. Demon Bolt back up. Hand of Gul'dan again. Demon Bolt back up. Hand of Gul'dan again. Soul Strike. Demon Bolt. Hand of Gul'dan. I mean, look at all these imps. That's crazy. And then our Shadow Bolts are dealing way more damage. And so that's pretty much what you can do. I mean, any enemy out in the open world is probably dead by now. So that is the build. That's how it works, and that's how you're going to want to use it. So before we go and show it off, we do want to take a look at the PvP talents that are available to you if you want to toggle on war mode and mainly focus on PvE content. First off, I recommend that you take Relentless. This will replace your Honorable Medallion and give you 20% reduction to the duration of any crowd control effects on you. So it's a nice passive set it forget it ability that you can use. Next, we have Pleasure Through Pain. So while your succubus is active, which I already said, you know, mainly use your succubus in PvP. However, this gives your succubus some additional uses. So while your succubus is active, your shadow damage is increased by 15%, and the cast time of your shadow bolt is reduced by 5 seconds. So if you have war mode toggled on, I would recommend that you take succubus as your main pet, because it's a 15% increase to all shadow damage you deal, which is most of the damage you deal, and you get a half-second reduction on Shadow Bolt, taking it down to a 1.2 second cast, meaning that you can basically get your soul shards back a hell of a lot faster with this pet out. Next, Master Summoner, your Call Dreadstalkers is now instant cast, so we kind of talked about this with taking our talent. Sorry. But basically, we have the we have that chance. Where's it at? There it is. Sorry, demonic calling. Oh man, that was awful. I apologize. Demonic calling gives our shadow bolt and demon bolt that chance to make the next call dreadstalkers cost 1 less soul shard and have no cast time. Well, with this ability out, it just flat out is instant cast always. We don't have the possibility for getting that reduction on the soul shard cost, so you could still keep demonic calling, but that does open it up for you to choose either power siphon or doom if you're able to use this talent. But you can just keep this one, because that 1 soul shard reduction for the called dreadstalkers is actually not that bad. So. And then finally, Essence Drain. Whenever you heal yourself with Drain Life, the enemy target deals 5% reduced damage to you for 6 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. So usually when you're casting Drain Life, it's either because you've given some health to your pet to keep it alive and you're trying to get your health back up, or your pet's dead, stuff is attacking you, you're trying to survive, so draining life, trying to get health back as you continue to deal damage to the enemy. So with Essence Drain, while you're trying to do that, you can get up to 25% damage reduction from that enemy as well, which is going to kind of help turn the tide of that situation for you and help you to survive. So that's it for the PvP talents. The next thing to do is take this build out into the open world and show off how it works. So I'm going to cut to that, and I'll see you there. Alright, so we're here in Suramar City, and we are just going to go down and try to fight a couple different types of enemies and show off the build. So let's hop off our mount so we can get our pets out. Alright, so remember, we're going to want to kick things off with a Demon Bolt. That long cast time. You're going to see our Felguard will charge over there. Not when he's on passive, but he'll do it. And in this case, like, we don't even really need to do anything. That's the nice thing about the Demonology Warlock. With this particular build, you're going to have your Felguard plus 2 other imps out, so you have a lot of stuff just passively there dealing damage for you. So, Demon Bolts, and then we'll cast Hand of Gul'dan, Call Dreadstalkers, which is kind of a waste, but there we go. So that's an unnecessary amount. We don't really want to waste soul shards like that. So if we're fighting just a single target, you know, it's probably good enough just to cast Demon Bolt, let your pets do their work, and then just start casting Shadow Bolt. You know, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but I mean, we've got 5 soul shards now, so if we go all out, you can see, like, it's pretty ridiculous. So what you really want to try to do here is we want to try to get into some AoE combat here. So we'll pull all these guys over. We'll call Dreadstalkers. We'll Hand of Gul'dan. Our target's dead. We'll Hand of Gul'dan. We've got our Demon Bolt back if we want to cast that. Hand of Gul'dan again on this guy. We've got our Demon Bolt to get back up there. Another Demon Bolt. We'll cast on this guy. This guy's got a little more health, so we can actually show off what to do here. So we got our Dreadstalkers. We got look at all these imps. It's madness. We can make all of our imps jump into them for some AoE damage. Build back up with our instant cast demon bolts. Just keep summoning those hands of Gul'dan as much as possible. Get all those imps out. Don't forget we can generate soul shards with our Soul Strike talent. That's going to help us out there. And there you go. It's pretty hands-off. I mean, you can really just keep summoning, casting Hand of Gul'dan over and over again. That's just about good enough to get rid of anything that you're going to fight. So, let's take this over. We're going to fight this rare spawn over here. Let's show what happens if you're in a situation like this. You just grabbed a bunch of people. You don't have a lot of stuff going on. You could Shadow Fury. Stun them all. Use your 3 soul shards to Hand of Gul'dan. Soul Strike to generate a soul shard for yourself. And at that point, you know, just cast a couple of Shadow Bolts and try to get your Hand of Gul'dan going again. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and incorporate our Summon Demonic Tyrant. So this increases the duration of all your current demons by 15 seconds and increase the damage of all your other demons by 15% while damaging your target. So we're going to do our opening rotation here. We're going to do Demon Bolt into Hand of Gul'dan, into Call Dreadstalkers, into Soul Strike for Soul Shard. Hopefully by that time we probably got a cast of Demon Bolt, a Demon Core to activate this. If not, we're going to go straight into Shadow Bolt, build that up, summon another Hand of Gul'dan, and then pop Demonic Tyrant. So we kind of want to have like 6 or so extra imps out besides these when we do this. So let's just go ahead and do it. So we're going to open with our Demon Bolt into Hand of Gul'dan, call Dreadstalkers. Oh, we didn't have enough there, so call Dreadstalkers. Alright, summon our Demonic Tyrant. Alright, we want to build up our soul shards again. She's already dead. Alright, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it can be a very hands-off build to play, as you can see. A lot of times against regular enemies like that, like trying to go through the full rotation isn't even worth it. As I said before, you know, you can open with your Demon Bolt into Hand of Gul'dan and then just go back into Shadow Bolts, and your target should die fairly quickly. You could do Hand of Gul'dan into Summon Dreadstalkers into Shadow Bolt, but a lot of times all that damage, all those soul shards are just going to be wasted on that target, and then at that point you're going to have to build them back up again just to get into your regular rotation of casting Hand of Gul'dan. Also, don't forget that with Hand of Gul'dan you don't have to use 3 soul shards. It'll summon 1, 2, 3 imps and use 1 to 3 soul shards. So if you just want to cast Hand of Gul'dan with 2 soul shards against a regular enemy, I mean, do it. No big deal as far as that goes. So I hope that has helped you to understand the Demonology Warlock a little bit better, giving you the confidence to get on your own Demonology Warlock, head out there into the open world, start doing some questing, farming, try out the specialization, see if it's something that you'd like to play in Battle for Azeroth. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever you want to do to keep encouraging me to make these videos. Either way, I hope you have a good time in Battle for Azeroth, and really, thank you for watching.